My name is Grania Kennedy, and I'll just be introducing today, and I'll be speaking briefly later on about my experience as a consultant on energy master plans. But our goal today is just really to get a good understanding of energy master plans, how you can go about getting one, what you need to be aware of when it is your community's time to gather this information, because it can seem like a daunting piece of work, but it's a very important piece of work because it gives your community that full picture of your energy use that you can use going forward for any of your energy plans. And it's a really important piece of work. So for communities, we really feel that we want you to get the absolute most out of it. And we're delighted as well to have a speaker today who has already been through the process in their community. So it's a great bit of knowledge for communities to receive. So this is our webinar etiquette. Mary will email all attendees afterwards. And as I said, we will have the recording, and we will also have any extra questions that people might have. So just to be mindful of the mute, and also having the cameras off. And of course, we are recording, as I've said before. So this is our agenda. We'll start off with Alex, and she will speak about what is an energy master plan and what's involved. Then we will have Lawrence O'Reilly from ORS, and he will speak about the procurement process. I will then do a brief piece about getting the most out of your energy master plan and engaging with your consultant. And Tom then Llewellyn from Clashmore Kinsale Beg Sustainable Energy Community will speak about their experience. And finally, we'll have Yvonne Byrne discussing funding and the opportunities there. So I will stop sharing so that Alex can share from her end, if that's okay. Alex? So Alex is going to speak to us about, yes, energy master plans, what's involved.
No. Perfect, thanks, Grania. Can you see the screen there? See my presentation?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks everybody for being here this morning. So yeah, and thanks for the introduction, Grania. So today, what I would just like to outline it briefly, because we're trying to fit a lot into an hour-long session this morning, and we feel that keeping these webinars short and concise is important in this day and age where we're spending 90% of our days on Zoom and team meetings. So we'll try and get through as much as we can. But if there's something that we don't cover today, we're here to answer any questions or emails, or give any further information at any point in time after today as well. So today what I'd like to talk about is what is the Energy Master Plan? What is an Energy Master Plan, and what you as an SEC should hope for and aim to get out of your Energy Master Plan. Perfect. So myself, I'm Alex Hamilton. I'm the Senior Engineer with Three Counties Energy Agency, and Grania, who was on with you earlier, is our energy engineer. We are the SEC regional coordinators for the South East region. We work on behalf of SEAI. Previous to that, in 2016 to 2019, we were the SEC mentors for the South East region. Now each of the 4 counties in the South East have their own county mentors who are all on the call today, and myself and Grania coordinate the mentors. So if there's any specific queries that you have, you can come directly to us and we can pass you on to your county mentors. So our role within the SEC program we've been working with the SEAI through the SEC program for the last 5 to 6 years. So we work with the communities to develop the sustainable energy projects. We help assisting with grant funding for the master plans and for delivery of projects. And most importantly, what we're here to talk about today is completing the energy master plan. So we ourselves in the Energy Agency have completed 3 SEC energy master plans, and we have another 5 in progress. So that's our experience with the SEC program and the energy master plans. So the aim of this presentation is to talk you through step by step what is an energy master plan, so what's in the energy master plan, and then how is it delivered. So that's the aim of this short presentation. So the energy master plan it's a report basically, and it's a plan for you and your community. And the number one thing for you as an SEC to remember is this is your plan. This is your journey as a sustainable energy community, and this plan is to help you and your community through that journey. It can be completed by a consultant, most likely will be, but the whole way through the Energy Master Plan process, the SEC and the community needs to engage. And that's what makes it your journey. You can have a consultant come in, or a contractor, whoever it is, come in and give you a plan that they have developed and that they have devised that has no relevance to you. So make sure it's very, very important that you as an SEC engage throughout the whole process. This is your plan. This is your journey as a sustainable energy community. And what needs to go into that Energy Master Plan is your vision. And it starts with your baseline energy data. So where are you now as an SEC? How much energy and what type of energy are you using as an SEC right now? And then what is your target? So what is your vision as an SEC? Where is it that you want to go in this journey? So what is your target? And then there's what's called the Register of Opportunities. I'm going to go through each of these separately afterwards. This is just the high level outline. So the Register of Opportunities then is all of the, it's basically a list, it's a wish list of every opportunity that is out there within your community, that can be identified within that community. And most importantly, it's a list of every opportunity, and what we take then from that large and long list, hopefully, is specific actions, and it's those specific actions that then go onto the action plan. So you will have a register of opportunities, which is a long list of all of the opportunities. But most importantly is that you take the opportunities and put them onto an annual action plan, and those are the actions or the measures or the projects that you're actually going to deliver on an annual basis. The plan will also look at the existing and potential renewable projects, so it's not just looking at the energy efficiency side of things, it's also looking at the renewable side of things. And then it should give you the master plan, should give you a list of next steps. So how do we, now we've got this plan in place, now we know where we are, we know where we want to go, we know how to do it through our register of opportunities, how do we actually implement it? So what are the next steps in terms of grant applications, in terms of, again, growing the SEC and continually reviewing the master plan. So the master plan, once the master plan is done, it's not finished. So the master plan will continually need reviewing and revising. As I said, the community engagement piece is critical. So again, this is your journey, it's your energy master plan for your community, and you need to feed into it throughout the whole process. So it's critical that the community get involved, and it's really important to have a clear communications plan. Gráinne will go into later on detail and experience of some of the master plans that we specifically worked on. But it's very important for you as an SEC to understand that even when you engage that consultant to do the master plan, you don't walk away and leave it up to them. You have to continually engage. The master plan will only be as good and as relevant to your community with the more information that you as a community give and provide. Information workshops with your community. So again, your SEC, your Sustainable Energy Community, may have a good, strong committee, but how is that message being spread to the wider community? Through information workshops, through the communications plan. The Energy Survey Questionnaire, it's again, and I'll go into it in more detail on the next slide. The Energy Survey Questionnaire is very important, again, to get as much relevant and local data for your community as possible. So getting as many members of the community to fill out and complete that Energy Survey Questionnaire is very important. Feedback and queries from the residents and from the community groups and the residents of the SEC. Again, reminder, this is your plan, and we need, or the consultant for the Energy Master Plan needs your feedback and needs your input throughout the end. And also very important, and sometimes a step that's missed, once that Energy Master Plan is finished and completed, that has to be presented back to your community. So whilst you're engaging with the community throughout and getting their data and getting their input and getting their feedback, make sure you feedback those results to the SEC at the end of the process, to the wider community.
2 minutes, Alex.
Thanks, Grania. Grania has to keep a tight schedule on me, otherwise I'll keep talking. So data collection, I'm going to speed up a bit. So data collection, there's 2 ways that the data collection can be done for the Energy Master Plan. Top-down analysis, where we take national data and extrapolate it down to your local area. That's not very accurate, and I mentioned on the previous slide that it's really important to get your localized data. So what we do also is a bottom-up approach, in a sense that you get your energy audits completed, you get your energy surveys completed by the residents and by the members of the SEC, so that there's two sources of information. The more localized data that we can get from you and your members within the SEC, the more accurate the Energy Master Plan can be in tailoring where it is that you're trying to go. There's a number of site-specific energy audits that can be done. I'm saying can be done as part of the Energy Master Plan, because again, remember, it's your master plan. So it's very important to choose what buildings are going to participate, what buildings are going to be looked at. And what we recommend here is firstly looking at what's called the significant energy users, so the SEUs. Where is the energy being used in the community, so that we can capture that, but also which buildings can be representative of the community as a whole. Because again, there's going to be a target or a small number of buildings that can be visited as part of the Energy Master Plan. So making it most representative in a sense that the findings can be shared amongst other members within the community. There is a time and budget for the Energy Master Plan. Depending on the size of your SEC, that is set by the SEI. So there is a budget that's set by the SEI for the Energy Master Plan. And so working out with your consultant at the start of the process exactly what it is that you can get within that time and budget is very important. So again, as an SEC, make sure that you understand what it is that you're getting, make sure you understand what it is that you want, and then work with the consultant to see if that's achievable within the time frame. There are a number, and I'm going to skip through that one. This is an example of a register of opportunities. So once the energy baseline data has done, we've got the energy surveys back, we've gone out to do the energy audits and the site visits of the homes. You will the Energy Master Plan will outline what's called the register of opportunity. So this is a list of all of the energy saving opportunities in your community, and it's based on the data that's collected. It should rank and prioritize the energy saving opportunities. Okay, so it will, again, as I said, it will be a full list of many projects, and they need to be ranked, because there are of course projects that are more effective, let's say, than others. So the register of opportunity
I don't know if you hear me now, but I'm getting
Yeah.
no sound. Yeah.
Yeah, Alex, you've frozen, I think.
Oh.
Okay. I'll just have a quick look at I think she'd just come to the end anyway. So I might just share her last slide, which is around the timetabling of the work. So this is roughly what you can expect. Oops, daisy. No, hold on.
there. Can you
Oh,
hear
there
me?
we have you again. You gone back,
Sorry,
Alex?
yeah, I think I've cut out there. Apologies.
Yeah. So you were on your last slide, which is about the timetabling, Alex. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, no. So just really to point out that it's a kind of 9 to 12 month piece of work So just to make the energy, sorry, the SECs aware that it is a large piece of work. Just my last slide there. Can you still see that? Takeaway key points. Perfect.
Yep.
So just the takeaway key points here. So get involved. It's really, really important that the SEC and the wider community get involved whilst the Energy Master Plan is being delivered. So the more localized data and the more input from the community, the better and more achievable and realistic the Energy Master Plan is going to be for you and your community. Choose replicable and representative buildings for the audits. Manage your expectations. So what can you get for the budget? What do you want? What is the budget? The budgets are set by SEI, as I mentioned. What can you get? And agree that at the start with the consultant who's doing the Energy Master Plan. But manage your expectations. You won't get 20 energy audits done of 20 buildings in your SEC. That's not possible. So just to understand, manage your expectations, know what you can get out of it. The time, it will take 9 to 12 months at a minimum to get the Energy Master Plan done. So it's a long piece of work. So if you're looking to deliver projects this year and you haven't started your Energy Master Plan, that's probably unrealistic. So be realistic as to what you can achieve when. Feedback and work with the consultants. Again, throughout the process, it's really, really important. This is your plan. It's your journey. And it can only be as accurate with the feedback and the data that you provide to the consultants. So thanks, Grania. I'll hand back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. So Lawrence, if you're happy to speak about the procurement process, that would be great. If you can share your screen.
I will do. Can you hear me there okay, Grania?
Yeah, you can hear you lovely.
And I'm sure you can see my slides there as well, just to confirm.
Yes.
So great, guys. I'll kick off there. So my name is Lawrence O'Reilly. I am an SEC County Mentor for the SEAI, and I am based in both Laois and Offaly here within the Midlands. I'm also an energy consultant and the energy management team lead with ORS, who are a consultancy based out of our, well, I suppose we're all over the country, but I'm based in Mullingar myself. So I suppose this morning I'm going to aim to take you through the processes of actually procuring your Energy Master Plan as you transition from that learn to the plan phase of the program. So we'll touch on what the SEC would typically need to do throughout this process, the various steps that are involved for the SEC, establishing how much funding your community can actually avail of, which is a very, very important point, as well as the process of appointing the energy consultant to actually carry out the Energy Master Plan for your community. So when it comes to the Energy Master Plan, in principle, I think we have two main areas that we need to work toward to actually make it happen for the SEC. So the first of these is to secure the actual funding for the study from the SEAI themselves. So as you can see from the top left-hand side of my slide here, these could be, I suppose, considered to be the high-level actions or the high-level documents that a sustainable energy community would complete and subsequently submit to the SEAI in this initial process of actually securing that funding. So these would include the competency evaluation, it would include your community charter, it would include the completion and submission of the Energy Master Plan grant application, and then the signing of the SEAI grant agreement form once all of those documents have been issued to the SEAI and have been reviewed by the SEAI. So I suppose on the first two items, sometimes an SEC can actually have these first two items complete before actually working on their EMP grant application, but I have just included these here so we're aware that these are actual formal items that are required. I think it's important to stress that there's nothing overly onerous in completing them. Sometimes the names sound more intimidating than they actually are. And they're actually really, really helpful documents and resources and tools for the SEC. So the competency evaluation, which is our first one, is very useful in identifying resources the SEC might need, like a little bit of extra training and maybe finance or engagement skills with the wider community. You can work with your mentor and the SEC team in its entirety to complete and analyze this type of a competency evaluation. And then from that, further training or workshops can be arranged if needed in some of the core areas that we would see within an SEC, like energy efficiency or renewable energy technologies or smart transport or strategic finance. So there's all loads of material and helpful resources that your mentor has to help in developing these skills within the SEC, which are integral as well as you develop through the EMP and into the do phase of your SEC. So the charter is then a really important statement from the SEC that really captures what the overall mission is here. And I think this is one that the SEC should work strongly together on. This is a statement that you guys will own yourselves. So it's one of those statements that the SEC should be able to look back on and as often as they need to really help to realign your focus if you need to. So if you see yourselves going off track, or if you see the scope of your energy master plan or the SEC itself change unintentionally. So that's what the aim of that is, to really bring you back into that central focus. So when we have these two complete, we could formally begin working on the Energy Master Plan grant application form. So this is, again, something the SEC should work together on and take ownership of, as Alex mentioned. But I think we also strongly recommend that you link in with your county mentor, because this application, it does ask for some details like community energy spend, indicative carbon emissions, what to include within the study, and a few other bits along those lines. And a lot of this information your county mentor will actually have. So I don't think you should be intimidated when you see this information, but instead you should use that as an opportunity to link in with your county mentor and to work with them to develop that initial draft. So you could fine tune it before it's submitted to the SEAI. To the bottom left of my slide there, you'll just see that that outline of what the levels of funding are for an energy master plan. So you're ranging from level 1 all the way to a level 4. Level 1 is a typical village. Level 2 is going to be a typical town. I'm from the Midlands here, so something like Tullamore, for example, will qualify for up to 15k. A larger area like a larger peninsula or an island or something like that, or a larger town, might qualify for up to 20k, whereas regional based SECs will qualify for up to 25k. But mainly we're seeing SECs qualify for funding in the region of 10 to 15,000 euro for their energy master plan. So I suppose as mentors, we've successfully submitted a wide range of energy master plan applications. So we're very comfortable advising what the SEC should put into this application and how it should read, and how you actually come to the conclusion of what level you actually are. So the SEC team in the SEAI are also, they're the guys that will evaluate these applications once they're submitted, but they're also very, very friendly, and they appreciate that, you know, we're dealing with volunteers, and we're dealing with communities and people who might not be overly confident when it comes to the technical understanding of energy. So if they spot anything off in your application, what they usually do is they contact us or they contact yourselves with feedback, and we can resubmit with that feedback. So one tip I received from the SEAI when completing these is to make sure that we really sell the community side of our SEC within the application and all the fantastic work that's actually happening within the community and what the people are doing. So really the SEAI just want to be sure that you have a vision as an SEC and that you're committed to the program, because they're obviously putting a certain level of finance back onto the SEC for funding of the Energy Master Plan. And they just want to know that it's going to the most engaged and active groups that are out there that are really pursuing change for their community. So once you've submitted the application form and it's successfully approved by the SEAI, they will issue the grant agreement form. And it's as simple as the SEC signing this and returning it to the SEAI, and your grant funding has been approved. So at this stage, we're happy that we've secured our Energy Master Plan funding. So what's the next steps for the SEC? Well, we first need to appoint an energy consultant to actually carry out the SEC, the EMP itself, should I say. So the graphic at the top of my slide here attempts to break down this process into, again, the typical stages or steps that the SEC would take in actually doing this process. So the first thing we need to do is to develop our RFQ, or our request for quotation. So this is a summary document of the scope of the Energy Master Plan that we will issue to the respective consultants, and they will give us a quote for the works based on what's included. So again, as your county mentor, we have loads of sample RFQs that we've used before, so we can share these with you and essentially just change a few specifics as needed to align with your own community, your own area, your own objectives. Again, to reiterate what Alex mentioned, it is your journey, it's your vision. So we want to make sure all of that's included in the works that you are trying to achieve. So in this document, we would include what areas we want the Energy Master Plan to cover, what types of buildings we want looked at, for example. So what we really want to do is have a strategic roadmap for energy projects once the EMP is complete. So we just need to make sure that we articulate that within the RFQ. But again, as county mentors, we have very strong templates that cover all of this. So I would suggest that, that you request these from your county mentor and together develop that first draft alongside them. So I think Alex mentioned it as well. It's about managing expectations. And one tip I would really give as SECs to the SECs today is to always manage your expectations when it comes to what to include within the RFQ. And this is where liaising with your mentor is very, very important. You know, we have seen requests for quotations go out recently from SECs where they're calling for works that maybe a costing of up to 35 to 40k when you actually look at the scope, when maybe only 15 or 20k was actually allocated by the SEAI based on their level of funding. So this can result in maybe quotes coming back that are far too excessive, maybe no quotes come back at all, and might mean that the RFQ has to be redrafted and issued again. So my advice would be to work with your mentor and try not to include too much of the same thing in it and manage that scope. And what I mean by that is sometimes we see EMPs call for, example, 30 BURs and technical assessments of houses and maybe 10 or 15 commercial audits with bespoke reports. And these end up taking up huge chunks of the EMP budget. However, the sheer volume of them doesn't actually add massive value to the report and the EMP findings. So be considerate of this when we make our RFQ, and make sure that it's rounded and covers all areas, like the awareness, strategies for engagement within the community. We're covering our energy audits as well, renewable potentials, and strategies for like clean transport and all these different types of things. So I think once we're happy with our RFQ, we can issue it out. Again, your mentor will have a list of consultants to do that. So you can select a number of these consultants. We'd recommend you issue it to about 4 or 5 in an attempt to get maybe 3 responses back. So when you've got these responses, we'll work on reviewing the quality of the submissions, and using a very simple scoring system, we can appoint the most suitable consultant. And at that stage, we're ready to notify them. And we have our initial kickoff meeting, and we can get the study on course. So I think I'm pretty much on a 10 minutes there, I think. So that guys covers our summary in a brief segment, I suppose, on the steps of procuring and appointing a consultant for the EMP. And as I said, there's loads of resources for your SEC to utilize in this process that are available through your mentor and through other communities that have done similar work. And it's all about opening up to that network. So don't be put off by the work that's required. I think when we work together and break it down step by step, it's all very straightforward. So thanks for taking the time to listen to me, and I'll pass you back to Grania, our facilitator.
Great. Thank you, Lawrence. Just under 10 minutes. Unbelievable. And really good information there on, the practical support that's there for communities. And I would feel that the application of the procurement process is the beginning of really getting to know your energy consumption in your area. And the more knowledge you have as a community, the more, it's the more power you have when it comes to developing your own projects. So I'll just give my input here as someone who is delivering delivering energy master plans at the moment in Leinster. So as a consultant, what we find works best with the community is that understanding from the community as to how they want the document structured and how they want to read when it's published. So we need to be very mindful of who is going to be accessing this information afterwards, and make sure it's understandable. So don't be afraid when you're speaking with your consultant to speak, to lay out, and this is work you can do in the RFQ as well when you're tendering, even that how you want the report to be laid out, how you want it to come across to people, and the language that you want used. So the second point there is around how you'd like the data presented. So all consultants really are looking at, often they will give advice to get your building up to a B2 standard, because that's really the legislative requirement nationally, and that's where we're going as a country, that we want to get our buildings to be as efficient as possible. But it may be useful in your community to get a breakdown, not for every building, but maybe even one building, so that people understand that they could have basic upgrades and what difference that would make to a household. So improving insulation or improving lighting and things like that, and then go up to more advanced improvements, and finally to the deep retrofit, which would get your buildings up to the B2 rating or beyond. So breaking it down sometimes like that can be useful. And I'm getting attacked by my own stopwatch here. So yet again, being clear with the consultant as to what information you think that people will find useful. As I mentioned there about the building rating, the B2 impact, for when we lay out the improvements to be made and the cost and different things like that, it can be a little bit intimidating when it comes to these investments, but really consultants are laying out that information very clearly for you, because that's where the grants are, the there's grants for all of these improvements, but the deep retrofit grant is covers those improvements. So you can get it broken down further, but there will also be tables and information in your report as to how your buildings that have been assessed will get up to the B2 standard. So Alex mentioned about reaching out to the community, and I feel that this is so important that you know, we're, as consultants, we're going into your community and speaking with your neighbours and your friends and asking them, you know, asking to assess their buildings if they're chosen as the buildings that are most representative in your community. But essentially they might know who we are, and you know, an awful lot of people have never been involved in an energy audit before. They, you know, they don't really know why they might be doing it. So the more engagement you can do as a community, showing why you're doing this work and what the community will ultimately benefit from, the more we can do that, the better it is. And that could be anything from you know, we have the public meetings at the start of the process when we're looking at the Energy Master Plan, and we try and reach out to as many people as possible. And at those meetings as well, we also have, we share the surveys that we ask people to complete. But it could be, as well as that, you know, a poster in your local post office. It could be just speaking, asking every member of your committee to speak to 3 or 4 households, and on and on and on. And the more that people understand that what's been done here, the more successful your program will be, especially when it comes to the non-domestic audits, because in those audits, because the buildings are quite large, we do need data. Of course, we need data for the other ones as well, but it's even more important for the businesses. And if people aren't really aware of what's happening and why they should be involved, then they're not going to be you know, kind of providing information when it's needed. And we want to be able to deliver things on time for communities. We don't want any of this stuff dragging out. And often what can cause the dragging out is maybe people not being completely on board with the project, and you know, you're trying to get data off them, you're trying to arrange dates for audits and stuff, and if they're not completely convinced, then you know, you're at nothing. So the more they can see this is a community benefit, the more opportunity you'll have. And then Lawrence mentioned there about speaking and discussing with your consultant, and actually before that, even when you're going for your tender, as to what is quality when it comes to audits for your community. So if you do 15 or 20 audits, or if you put in for it, is that going to be of benefit to you, or are you better off looking at 5 housing types in your village, or 7 even, but looking at them in high detail? So I think really, you know, the consultant is there to help you, and they really are relying on what you're telling them, really. So as a group, if you can have a talk amongst yourselves as to what would be the best thing that you could get out of this, and then go and speak to your consultant. So that is my my few thoughts on it, and we will speak from the other side now. I was talking about the consultant side, but Tom from Clashmore Kinsale-Begg can speak to us about the community experience and what worked or what didn't work for you all. So Tom, would you like to speak there?
Sure, okay. Right, okay. The first of all, who we are, Clashmore Kinsale-Begg. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you lovely.
Okay, we're a very, very small, we're 2 combined parishes on the very southwesterly corner of Waterford, right up against the Cork border, from which we're separated by the river Blackwater. Now, when I say small, there's about 5,000 hectares of land. There's 1,570 residents in 569 houses, plus some that are unoccupied or that holiday homes. 950 cars, 2 villages, with only 1 shop between the 2 villages. and I suppose the thing that came up most in our energy master plan was the fact that a lot of the housing stock is quite old. 20% of those houses would have been built before 1901, which I'll get to later on as causing problems. We were fortunate in getting off to a kind of running start in a way that we had a community council already set up in Clashmore and Kinsale in 2015. So, which was a registered charity, which we registered as a charity, which comes in handy later on. From that we applied for and went through the process of becoming an SEC. Nothing difficult in it. I won't go through the steps like I was meant to, because you've already been through them with Lawrence and Grania. Just to make a couple of comments on it. The first was that the quotation we got for the EMP, we got 3 quotations, and none of them would have been covered by the 10,000 grant that we were getting, but we were able to negotiate it down to 10,000 without really dropping much of what was in the program, and that was paid in 4 installments of 2,500 each. The SEA were quite awkward on it.
Tom, do you mind if I just interrupt you there, because I just had a question? So just if anyone's thinking that Tom is sharing slides and we can't see them, it's not, he's speaking, and just in case anyone is thinking. So Tom, you were talking about sorry for interrupting the application.
Well, my video won't come on either, by the way, just when I tried to turn it on, but anyway.
No worries.
It doesn't matter. You're not missing much. Anyway, we got 4 tranches of 2,500. They were very awkward on looking for proof that was paid. I mean, it's silly. You had to prove it came out of your account. You had to prove it went into the account of the consultants. I've never heard of anything like that before. It was quite silly. And I mean, there was also a situation we had to borrow the money from a credit union to do to fund each tranche in advance, which wasn't helping. Anyway, we got the Energy Master Plan done in August 2019, so we would have been the first in County Waterford and to have done so. I suppose we felt the plan was largely kind of copy and paste exercise, really, especially seeing when we saw afterwards energy master plans done by the same consultants, which differed very, very little from ours. And in fact, just when we saw that we said, oh gosh, look, we're going to have a more of it. We felt we were having quite an input into it, but we weren't really. And we're glad that we did have more of an input, because it's turned out after producing the plan that when we've tried to do other projects, we've been referred back, was that in your master plan? And this especially applied to energy generation that we were planning. We put absolutely anything and everything that could be there, mentioned it in it, and if we hadn't, we would have been told, oh, it wasn't in your energy master plan, so you mightn't be eligible for this funding. So I suppose that's one thing, is to say, make everything that is in it. Now, okay, to go back again to the reason I gave what sort of a community we have, it's extremely rural. So there's no such thing as buses or anything else like that. So about 25%, 23% of the energy consumed is consumed by vehicles, and you can't stop people moving from place to place unless you have a lockdown like the moment. And kind of 53% of the energy is used in houses. Now, because we've got a very old stock, we are we'd say discriminated against by the way the grants are operating. When I say 20% of the houses before 2001, and there'd also be a lot between that and say 220 or whatever, but virtually every house built before 2001, and that'd be 20% of ours, would have been built in stone rubble in this area, clay and stone, which is actually quite a good insulation material, because the walls, I'm living in one of those houses myself, the walls are about 600 millimeters thick, 2 foot thick. So they are quite, the structure itself is quite good insulation. Yet when you go for a BER rating, it's rated as though it were a 10-inch mass concrete wall, which has no insulation value. So it is virtually impossible to upgrade to a B2 from a stone, and from the old houses in this area. And they're the ones that most need to be upgraded. So, you're more or less having to tell people, look, it can't be done. Deep retrofit won't do it, because you won't get up to a high enough standard. Not because you can't get them energy efficient, but because they will be judged not to be less energy efficient than they actually will be, right? So that is kind of one of the problems. I suppose also kind of to actually follow up on the plan once we had it done, we found a lot of hindrances within the system. There were delays in clarifying the regulations as to what exactly would be approved for grant. And we started off very early, having public meetings, trying to inform people of all that could be done. And then we got people applying to do it with us, and then we couldn't get answers for them. There were grants for deep retrofitting, then they were stopped, and then people weren't being assessed. Our county plan, Waterford, would have it down as all good things they want to do for energy efficiency. But when it actually comes to it, there's no support to us whatever. They really, the whole idea of these communities acting to advance what you want to get is an EC sponsored idea to decentralize decision making. But really, we find the councils are very slow to do it. They still want kind of control. They haven't really got into this idea that communities should be able to make their own decisions. We would have had absolutely zero help from them.
Sorry, Tom, you're nearly coming to the end of your time there, but
okay. No, okay, I'll just skip straight into it, say that okay, financing the balance of community projects was also an issue. If you want to do it, we improved virtually every public hall in place in some small regard. To do more, how do you raise the balancing funds? Okay, I'll just finish now. In addition to the energy master plan, we went one further because we were limited in how we could save energy within the community. We decided we'd become energy neutral by generating energy. So we have set up a community energy company, which has applied for the REIS last year, but didn't get on the preferred list, but on the secondary list. Our intention would be to be conscious of the limitations of what we can do in energy conservation, and instead try to produce maybe even the surplus of energy from our community. It is possible, but again, it's being made very, very, very difficult for us.
Thank you, Tom. Is that
that'll do?
Yeah. Okay, so that's the experience, I suppose. As you said, this is you're the first, well, one of the first in Waterford, and for us as well, we have to, as consultants, we have to be aware of what's going to actually work for a community. So thank you very much for that input. And I think there may have been, well, we'll go to it on the end, but there's a question definitely came in there that I imagine you'd be the person to answer that, Tom. So finally, we have our last speaker, and then we'll have a short question and answer session. So I am going to share the slides for Yvonne. And Yvonne, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself there, and if you can give us your presentation there.
Thank you, Grania. Good morning, everyone, and lovely to see, not that I can literally see you, but to know that there's a large number of people logged on this morning. What I want to touch on is the funding models for energy master plans, and we've looked at that a little bit through other speakers this morning. The first key step is securing the grant for the completion of your energy master plan. And Lawrence spoke about that in terms of the application form and the competency assessment and the community charter. And all of those documents can be assisted with the mentor in your area. So certainly don't feel alone with that. It is 100% grant, as Tom spoke about, but it is a retrospective grant. So what that means is that you have to show up front to SEAI that you've got the matching monies and that you've got the money to be able to bankroll it for the consultant. In some instances, and we heard about this in the previous webinar, development agencies, so in Carlow, for example, the Carlow County Development Partnership, they actually support the SECs in their county and they assist the bankrolling of that grant up front. Other examples like Tom's, where they got, say, loans from the credit union to pay for it. That's also something that Three Counties Energy Agency is looking at across the region with various stakeholders to see if we can support communities in the bankrolling of that. So watch that space, and certainly the county mentors will keep you fully advised of that situation. So once you've got your grant and you've got your energy master plan underway, as previous speakers have spoken about, the next key step is looking at the implementation of projects that have been identified in the opportunities. And I think Tom's comments about making sure that you've got absolutely every project idea identified in your energy master plan is really, really important, because energy master plans serve as the backup when you're going to seek grants. People want to know where's the need for it, and you can obviously then tie that back to your energy master plan. What I'd certainly recommend is that while you're completing your energy master plan, and as we've heard this morning, that typically takes 9 to 12 months, certainly start looking at grants, start getting a sense of which of the grants you might want to go for, and start identifying your priorities as the research is developing in your energy master plan. And then finally, the step 3 is securing the funding and then implementing the energy efficiency or the renewable energy or the sustainable transport initiatives. And again, I think as Tom spoke about, that each community is going to be very different. You know, for them with their older housing stock, their actual solution is probably to move towards the renewable energy generation, where in other communities it might be looking at energy efficiency first. So just want to give you a brief overview of grants. Some of you may be very familiar with some of these, but hopefully it's useful just to have them on the one page. So at the top there, you'll see Sustainable Energy Authority Ireland, SEAI. They have a big grant scheme, Better Energy Communities, that comes up annually. You score additional points if you, one, are a registered SEC, or secondly, if you've completed an energy master plan. Again, agencies like the Three County Energy Agencies can assist groups with their BEC applications, and it's administered by the local authority in each area. Typically, they come up around October, November time. So again, it's just to be aware of that timing because it's an annual grant program. The next one, the Homeowner Grants, they're very much for individual homeowners in your SEC area to apply. There's a wide range of grants, from attic insulation right through to solar PVs on your roof for microgeneration, for example. So I've included the link there. Do look it up. And again, that comes back to the communication across your whole SEC and making sure that you disseminate the information out to everybody living in your local area. Next, there's a wide range of community grants. So LEADER, for example, for 2021, they're going through a transitional program. Certainly things around climate change seem to be very high up on their agenda. So do talk to your development agency in your county to see if LEADER might be a good fit for you. Town and Village Renewal, that's an annual program administered by the local authorities. Typically, that's funded a wide range of initiatives that match opportunities identified in an energy master plan. So that could be electric vehicle charging points, it could be solar PVs on community buildings, it could be putting in bicycle racks or more footpaths to reduce car usage. So certainly get in touch with your local authority. Typically it's about this time of year, so spring, that they start doing their expressions of interests from communities. And then typically it's end of June. Last year was slightly different, but typically it's end of June for submission of applications. It's an 80% grant, so it's a fairly generous grant, and it's certainly been very beneficial for many villages and towns in the region. The Rural Regeneration and Development Fund, just to touch on that, that's a large grant, minimum £500,000. If it's of interest, then certainly look it up online. For many of these grants, you'll be able to see examples of previously funded projects so that you can see if what you're thinking about is a good fit. The next one, Outdoor Recreation Infrastructure Grant, often referred to as ORIS. That's for walking trails, cycling trails, and blueways, again, administered by the local authority, typically an annual grant. The next two, Community Enhancement and the Environment Action Fund, there tends to be much smaller grants, you know, maybe 5,000 and under, but they're lovely for small environmental type projects that you might have identified through your energy master plan. And they're more simple and straightforward to seek. FLAG is a coastal grant program for villages and towns living within 10 kilometres of the coast. In advance of this webinar, I just got in touch with the Southeast Regional Administrator. There's not likely to be FLAG funding this year, unless that changes, but at the moment that's the situation. Farming grants, the TAMS programme is a fantastic program for supporting things like micro renewable energy generation, so solar PVs on farm buildings, for example. The current grant scheme is open up to the 16th of April 2021, and it's typically 40 to 60% grant aid. And then finally, the businesses. So what I've recommended there's a number of business grants. You can either go on to the SEAI website or contact them directly, either by phone or email. I'm conscious of time, Grania, I'll keep going fast. So the most important thing, and you can see I've got the clock there, is know the timings for these grants, because often when they open, they're not open for long, so you need to be ready. And a lot of them are annual grants. So if you have a knowledge of when they're coming up, you can start planning your projects for that. I recommend you look at the websites and look at previous successful grants so that you get a very good sense of whether your ideas fit. Again, matching the objectives with the funders' priorities, making sure you've got land titles, leases, planning in place, and then having the matching funds available in your bank account. Often that's required at time of application. Making sure you've got your constitutions and that you've got your tax clearance cert from revenue. Evidence of need. So this is where you'll do very well. If you've your energy master plan or your energy audit done on community buildings, that puts you in a strong position on application forms. And then again, showing how you're compatible with the LECPs or the county development plans or the climate action plans, and referring back what you're trying to do to those strategies. And then just writing clearly and concisely and getting your project ideas across.
Great.
So thank you for that, Grania. And yeah, it's a rapid tour through funding for your energy master plan and for the projects coming through it. Key points to take away, I suppose, is organisations like the PPN will advertise when the grant programmes are typically coming up, so keep an eye on that. Register as an SEC with a Sustainable Energy Ireland. Then you get assigned your county mentor who can help and advise you through this whole process and know your funding deadlines. Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you, Yvonne. So that is great. So I'll just have a look and see, do we have any questions? Oh, no, we were very quiet, but I think we had a mention here about having as much advice. It's good that this approach. Oh, about including a wide variety of people on your steering committee. Tom, would you like to talk about that? How is it best to ensure that you get as much involvement as possible from the beginning? What was your experience in
Okay,
Councillor Beg?
Right. Okay. Well, we have the advantage of the community council was set up in 2015, and after they set up, they invited every group, every entity in the two parishes. You know, whether there were sports clubs, quilting clubs, every single thing you can think of. We're all invited to sort of participate in. Not just the community council itself, but also, you know, our SEC would be an integral part of that. Now, it hasn't worked in the sense that we don't have a very large committee on the SEC. The SEC is really a subgroup of the community council. And there'd be relatively small numbers kind of attending the meetings there. It's constantly open to everyone, but they would not attend. But because of the connections with all the associations within the community council, word does peter down a bit. We have kind of Facebook page, we have somebody operating a Twitter account. So the information is kind of, it's going out. Now, how much of it is actually being read? I suppose we were limited by a number of things. I mean, one of the things, like, you know, how do you persuade people to do something like put up solar panels when you can't sell surplus electricity? And that would especially be the case in the farming community, where there is obviously potential in our case, but, you know, it's not commercially practical unless you can do something with your surplus.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of things we felt, you know, you shouldn't be advising people really to do it at the moment, because we don't know what, you can't make an income, because it's not possible to do so. And then I suppose the shutdowns that are going on at the moment, where we can't hold any meetings anyway. So, you know, things are kind of in abeyance, other than our generation projects. We have a solar farm planned, which would generate 25% of the energy we would imagine that should be used in the community, with certain reductions. But other than that, you know, it isn't really possible. It's okay. All the information is going out all the time, and whether we're getting very, very little feedback really on it. It is an area that is going to be, it's going to be difficult to get people involved, but we will have a big advantage that the community council, whereas originally there was a lot of suspicion that it was trying to take over from the other groups in the area, at this stage virtually every group in the area has benefited from the community council and seen that we're there to facilitate what people want to do, not you know, take over control of anything. And that's very, very important, I think. You know?
I might just ask, Alex has raised her hand, and we have a question here just very quickly. Alex, if you want to mute yourself, but I'll just ask Tom, or very quickly, this question. Have Clashmore completed any projects, even small projects, so far?
We've 3 schools. 2 of the schools would have had some input of what they've done, whether, you know, bulbs or things like that. The 3rd school is on track to do it. It's just they had other building work going on at the same time, so they couldn't. Sorry, I put that away. All the public buildings, all the parish buildings and so on, something has been done with all of those. Some housing stock, social housing stock, has been changed now. Whether we can take credit for it ourselves or not, but I think the fact that we were looking at it gave a boost to having it done. The schools would always, from an environmental point of view, the schools are very much involved in getting children to, you know, have their own gardens and things like that in the school. So yeah, there is a lot has been done, but we're constrained there that we haven't got funds to make the contribution, and that's a big problem. And you know, like any grant you get, it's only a proportion, and we're very reluctant to fundraise because there's so many other groups that are fundraising, you know, to we don't want to be seen to try to, you know, as the sort of parent company in a way, to be trying to use the funds and the fundraising activities that would otherwise go to, you know, clubs and
groups. Yeah.
You know, so it's very difficult to come up with that.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. I'll just, Alex, you had your hand up very quickly. I'm just conscious that we'll finish up now. And
yeah, I just wanted to thanks,
yes.
Gráinne, and thanks, Tom. Yeah, I just wanted to continue there from what Tom was saying, the question about the SEC steering committee being as representative as possible. And I think what Tom has said there is correct in a sense that what you have done, Tom, from what I could hear, and what I think we advise is to get, you know, look at who is influential in the community. The aim here, and that will come through the communication plans and through working with your mentors as well. Who is, how can you get the message across in a sense that you can have an SEC steering committee that are very committed, but if you don't have the wider community involved and on board, you know, then your plan and your projects aren't going to be delivered in the scale and the size that you want it to be. So absolutely, the question there is being representative as possible. Look, Dan and others, look at who are the key influencers, let's say. How do you get that message about? And also you need that champion who's going to have the energy to drive it forward and to bring the community together as a whole.
Very good. We've just had another question there from Jonah, which I will answer. Farms being included in the Energy Master Plan, or is it only buildings? So we have covered farm buildings in the Energy Master Plan in certain communities if those buildings are representative of a good number of buildings in the community. So ultimately it is up to the community or the SEC group to decide based on the information that they've been given from their consultant as to what the breakdown of buildings is, what the breakdown of buildings are. But there would be less generally there's more domestic audits that are completed rather than non-domestic. So non-domestic, you might have 4 buildings, and that would be maybe a business, a farm, if farming was big in your area. So it's really down to the community to look at what we want is communities to look at the building types in their area and say, okay, well, if we do that building, that'll, you know, 20 other buildings in the community will get the benefit of that knowledge, or 10 or whatever it is. So it's about looking at your buildings and as a sustainable energy community, working, picking the ones that people are going to get the most knowledge from. So I will just finish up there, and I'd like to thank our speakers. I'd like to thank Tom, Yvonne, Lawrence and Alex. And we will have the slides, and actually, most importantly, Mary for getting everything to work in the background. We'll have the slides and we'll send them out to everyone. Again, don't be afraid to contact your county mentors if you have any more questions on the Energy Master Plan, and they're there to walk you through it really. And that is it at the moment, but we will have webinars coming up